Silence is perhaps the golden means in our time for us to approach God. Silence is perhaps the royal road of the narrow way that Jesus spoke about, that few find. The narrow way. So there's a wealth of materials. This channel's often about books, and there's an absolute plethora of books on silence, from the likes of the Carthusians. Every book they write, pretty much. I was looking in my bookshelf, and pretty much every book that I have from the Carthusians that I've picked up over the years have got the silence in it. They Speak by Silences is the name of one of their books. This is a good one as well. Silence by the Camaldolese hermits. Less well known than the Carthusians, but very similar. They live as a kind of small collective body of hermits in Italy and other parts of Europe. Silence by Thich Nhat Hanh, another beautiful book that explores the healing power of silence. And that, here's the thing, silence isn't just about stopping talking. A negative action is a positive. It's about, as we stop talking ourselves and transmitting, we're open to receive. And that's very healing, very restorative, and very prayerful. So before I get into these two, this is another book, Benedict's Dharma, which I picked up at the local Catholic monastery. And it's a bunch of Buddhist monks and meditators exploring this famous text of the Benedict's Rule, St. Benedict's Rule, which is the meat and potatoes of, the foundation of just about all religious life, certainly in the West, but still had a massive impact in the East, no doubt, as well, and was built on earlier texts like the Rule of the Master and St. Basil's Rule. So, in this book, it explores things like, the things that the Catholic monks do, and looks to see, are they acceptable from a Buddhist standpoint? And very, very often they are. And even if one changes the vocabulary, so for example, there's a section in here where they discuss the God question, the use of the word God. And it's not necessarily something that certainly modern Western Buddhists might do. But it's arguable that earlier Buddhists would have, emerging as they did from a very religious, God-saturated Hindu world in India and around all of the Buddhist diaspora. It was certainly not, the zeitgeist was certainly not materialistic atheism or crass hedonism. Emptiness. What if we use the term emptiness rather than God? I'm not saying you have to choose, but they make the point in this book that where Christians might use the term God, Buddhists might use the term emptiness. And one can think of emptiness like silence as a negative thing. I'm being told to shut up. Well, this is empty. This is dreich. Or one can see it as pure receptivity, pure potential, even pure act, if one thinks in Aristotelian metaphysics. The emptiness is at the same time complete fulfillment, because it has no boundaries. It is infinite, without walls, ready to receive the love from on high. The metta, as the Buddhists call it, loving kindness. So this book, Silence, is an interesting one. It's very classical, kind of Thomistic, Catholic writing. A lot of Augustine in here, Church Fathers, etc. It's classic, straight down the line, Roman Catholic spirituality. They love the Eastern Fathers too. The book looks at various aspects of silence, which is interesting. Okay, so you've got silence of the eyes, the hearing, the touch, the appetite, sense of smell, the will, self-esteem, silencing that self-esteem, both when folks say nice things about you as well as when you've done something wrong, upset somebody. Rather than getting the violin out and playing that for 3 hours, oh, woe is me, more or less accepting it. External silence, the particular silence that the Camaldolese hermits live. And there we are. I mean, it's an interesting little book. Now, one of the things it looks at, like silence of imagination, silence of the memory, the intellectual faculties, external silence. In these days, I've become very much aware that once one gets away from this idea of like, my tradition is right, all other traditions are soiled by the devil and are of the devil, my tradition is right, all other traditions are wrong, suspect and bogus, one opens a door to discover rich treasures that are to be found there in the great world religions, be it in the Bhagavad Gita, be it in the Dhammapada, be it in the Vedas, be it wherever you're drawn and wherever you find yourself. And I think if we navigate that with sincerity and listen to our heart, we'll be okay. And this is a kind of an ecumenism of deep silence, because the Eastern religions can teach us so much about how to live this life of silence, how to actually go about establishing this quietness. It's not to say that we in the West and we Christians have got nothing to offer. We have many rich traditions too and practices, but so do they in the East, not least the mindfulness tradition. And this is what's inspired people like Paul Knitter, I'll just pull it off the shelf now, to write a book called Without Buddha, I Could Not Be a Christian. It's quite a substantial book. He was a priest in the Jesuits, I believe, for 13 odd years, quite a long time of his early adult life before he left, got married, and ended up a theologian in Union Theological Seminary, professor of theology and world religion. So he did well for himself. His basic supposition is Christianity places high ideals on us. The Sermon on the Mount, forgiveness, being free from even the adultery of the eyes, etc. But how to achieve that, he often finds the praxis behind the theory, behind the commands in his Buddhist practices. He married a Buddhist, and he has said he's got a dual tradition, that he's both Christian and Buddhist. And he says, can you marry the two? Logically, on paper, no. In reality, and maybe in the heart, he says yes. Maybe at the Newtonian physical level, no. At the quantum level, perhaps yes. This is another one by Susan Stabile. She was a Tibetan nun for years and went back to her, her Christian faith of her childhood, to the Catholic faith, and she's written extensively about what actually, and then we've got a recommendation from Paul Knitter, what you can bring from that rich tradition, what she's bringing with her, into her Christian faith, things that can help her to be a better Christian. Yeah, another phenomenal one. Bede Griffiths, I was reading this week, and yeah, really nice, really nice. Bede Griffiths, The River of Compassion. Again, I got this from a local Catholic monastery. He was a Benedictine monk who went to India and allowed himself to go through that door and learn, rather than just be knocking on doors saying, "You guys come to us." He quickly realized they had much to offer them too, that the Hindu spiritualists, yogis, and masters had much to teach their monks. Brilliant book, a Christian commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. This is another exceptional one, Return to the Center by the same author. Anything this guy wrote is very good. And you can see the process of evolution from his early days to later, his later writings. He was very much on a journey. But here he talks about the one spirit in all religion. That's chapter 10 there. And just in this book, there's another one very similar to it, East meets West, that looks at the likes of the Buddha, Krishna, and Christ, the eternal religion, what Christianity, what's unique about that, its particular direction, and what the dharmic faiths offer into the mix. This journey to the center, or as Thich Nhat Hanh puts it, the way out is in, or as an Orthodox monastic Father Zachariah of Essex put it, go in and you will find peace, or you will find rest. The way out is in. And all of these great traditions offer methods, techniques, teachings, poetry, symbolism, mythology, religious history to a greater or lesser extent, but training in this return to the center. And for me, that's what's most important, rather than arguing over, well, did this really happen? Did that really happen? Is this the year that Moses died or whatever? How is that going to help me in my own spiritual journey, in my own return to the center? So now, just completing this video, these are 10 precepts that novice Buddhist monks will take. The first 8 of these will be taken by just serious practitioners of meditation, the serious Buddhists. The first 5 of them will be taken by pretty much all Buddhists to a greater or lesser extent. What's interesting, though, is this business of abstaining from eating after midday. I've been trying to practice this recently, not like there's some magic in 12 noon, but there and thereabouts. And it's very silencing. It's very helpful to enter into that space of silence in the evening. Abstaining, number 7 here, from entertainment and beautification. The beautification bit has been no problem for me, but certainly the entertainment, to abstain. Now, I haven't got there yet, but certainly leaving me to question, what am I looking at this for on YouTube, or where am I going in my searches? This is just entertainment. Is there something more beneficial I could be doing? So I just present these as ways that we can learn from one another. There we are. Hope that's useful.